Welcome back. We have made it all the way down now to Module 4, and in this particular module, I want to talk to you about navigating through your different workbooks. You'll need to know how to open files, and when you get them open, how do you work with some of those larger files and some other options I want to go through with you. This is section 1, and in this particular section, I want to go ahead and talk to you about how to open your files in Excel. And if you're familiar with opening files in other programs, it's going to be very similar. Let's go ahead and flip over to Excel and talk about opening a file. We're currently working in the file called My Sales Report that we actually created. You do not have to close one file to open another. You can open as many files as you want at the same time and flip back and forth. However, I do suggest that if you are finished with one, that you go ahead and close it just so you don't have all these files open. Here's how you're going to open a new file. If you go to the File tab at the top, that's going to throw you into the Backstage view, and you'll notice the third option down says Open. If you remember when we were saving a file, we talked about all these different places that you could save a file, and opening is really the opposite of saving. You're going to tell Excel where to look and then which file you'd like to open. Over here, you're going to see a list of all the files that you've recently opened. If you wanted to open one of these again, you just double click on it here from this list. I wanted to show you also the little pen that you see over here to the right. If you want to actually pin this to the list, you can just click the little pen, and notice it moved it up under these pinned options, and those are files that will kind of stay at the top of the list for you for easy reference. Those would be ones you'd use often. But in this case, let's go ahead and browse, and I'd like to look in Libraries and in this folder called Documents where I have this Excel folder, and I'm going to open that up and I'll see all the files that are in that folder. I want to go ahead and open a particular file called Loan Workbook. You can either click once and then get onto the bottom and hit open right here, or you can double click on the file to open it. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom in down at the bottom so that we can see this a little bit better. This is a file that actually will tell you a little bit of information about the loan that you have created. You can see the monthly payment is $400.40, and over here you've got the principal, the interest rate, and the term in months. Any of these can be changed. If you notice over in F4 where the monthly payment is, there is a formula there that basically says if I change any of these three numbers, go ahead and change my monthly payment. What if I want to borrow $20,000 instead of $18,000? And then let's say the interest rate was 5.7%. You can see how each time I made a change that it affected my monthly payment. If I look at the bottom of this file, there are a couple of sheets here. We're on a sheet called Terms of Loan. Anytime you'd like to flip to a second sheet, you just click the Sheet tab at the bottom, and now you'll see this one breaks out every month of the loan, principal, interest, all the way across. Now let me zoom in on this one a little bit as well. It's kind of small there. You can see here is your beginning balance. Here's the interest, the principal, and the remaining balance on this particular loan. What I wanted you to notice in this exercise is that this $20,000 is the same number, if I flip back to the terms of loan, that we had put in right here. Now someone could have typed that on each sheet and it would be correct. What they did is they went to the detail sheet for the 5-year loan and they put a formula right here. And in this particular case, if I double click and open it up, you can see that this formula basically says have this cell match the cell D3 on the sheet called Terms of Loan. And I want to show you how they did that because it's really fairly easy. Anytime you want a cell to match another cell, this is all you have to do. Remember, wherever you click, that's where the answer is going to be. And I want to hit the equal sign because I'm writing a formula. I want this cell to equal on the sheet Terms of Loan, and notice as soon as I clicked there, it put that in your formula for you. And then I want it to equal D3. Notice that's in the formula. That's all you do. Hit the Enter key, and that's done, and now they're linked. Let me try that one more time and show you how that works. I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to start with the equal sign. I'm going to flip to the Terms of Loan because that's the sheet that has the cell on it I want to equal. And then I'm going to click in the cell that I want it to equal, which is D3. And that's it. I'm going to hit the Enter key on the keyboard. That takes me back to the cell I was originally clicked in. And if I double click there, there's that formula that has the name of the sheet and the name of the cell. When you're looking at a formula and you see an exclamation point like you see in this one, that just tells Excel to change from a sheet tab to a cell. That's all that is. I want to go ahead now and show you a little bit about how to work with some of these larger files like you see here. Why don't we go ahead and flip over to section 2 and we'll talk a little bit about working with larger files. Welcome back. We are working in Module 4, and this is the module where I'm talking to you a little bit about how to navigate through your different workbooks. This is section 2, and I want to talk to you in this section a little bit about how to work with the larger files that you have. A lot of your files will be pretty small, and you'll be able to find what you're looking for pretty quickly, but you will have some that have lots and lots of data in them, and you need to know how to navigate and find different things you might be looking for in that particular file. Let's go ahead and flip over to Excel, and I'll show you how to work with those larger files. You'll notice in this exercise that I can't see all of the information on the initial screen. I need a way to actually go up and down and see the rest of the information. The easiest way to do this is to use the scroll bar that's on the right hand side of your screen. All you have to do is click on it, and then you'll be able to scroll up or down to see the data that you couldn't see initially. Some of you may have a wheel on your mouse, and if you do, use that wheel and just scroll it up or down that way. If you want to scroll left or right, you have a scroll bar at the bottom here, and that's going to let you go left or right and see data you couldn't see in the opposite direction there. The next way you're going to be able to move around is to use some of the keys on your keyboard that will take you to the top or bottom of your data. I want you to look for the Home key and the End key. Look over in your numeric keypad. If you look at the number 7, you'll see Home underneath. And if you look at the number 1, you'll see End underneath. If you're going to use those, you want to turn off the number lock so they become the Home and End buttons. Other than that, they mean the number 1 and the number 7. If you notice, I'm actually at the top of my screen already. I'm in A1, so I'd like to go to the bottom of this little table of data. If I hold down Control on my keyboard and hit the End key, notice I'll go to the bottom of that table of data there. Control End always takes you to the end, and Control Home always takes you to the top. If you use the Home and End key without the Control key, Home isn't going to take you anywhere because it means the beginning of the line you're clicked on. End will take you to the end of the line you're clicked on. So just know that you have those keys available if you want to actually use those. Another way to navigate is to actually type in the name box right here, the name of the cell that you'd like to go to. Now obviously you'd have to know that, but let's say I type in here column IV and I want to go to row 65,536. And I'm going to hit the Enter key, and now look where it's taken me, all the way down here. I'd like now to go back to the very top, so all I have to do here is type in A1 and hit the Enter key, and now I'm back to the very top. Anywhere you happen to be down in your workbook, if you want to go to the top again, you just hit A1 and hit the Enter key, and then you'll be back at the top there. Some other things you can do to search throughout your workbook is under your Home tab right here. If you go all the way to the end, you're going to see an option that says Find and Select. This is going to allow you to find certain words or maybe some numbers that might be in your workbook that you just can't seem to find if you scroll. Let's say I'm looking for the number 60. I'm going to choose Find from this drop down. I'm going to make sure I have the number 60 in here, and I'm going to choose Find Next. You'll notice it found the number 60 for me right there. If that's not the instance I'm looking for, I'm just going to hit Find Next again, and it will go find the next one. It's always based on where your mouse is clicked. If it can't find an exact match for you, it will let you know and give you a little message saying that it can't find anything. Now I want you to notice there's also some options here. If you want to look specifically within the whole workbook, for example, instead of just the sheet you're on, you could change that. It could be that you want to search by rows or columns, Or you can have it look in formulas, values, or comments. Values is basically the number that results from the formula. And we haven't talked about comments yet, but you have the ability to actually make a comment that shows up on each particular cell here. The other thing is, if you're searching for 60 and it doesn't find it, but yet you happen to see it with your own eyes, try checking this box, match entire cell contents, and see if that helps you find it a little bit easier. You also have a replace tab here. That would let you type in specific text or some numbers if you wanted, and then replace it with something else that you specify here, and you would just hit find next and then find the particular instance you want, or you can say replace all of them or just replace them one at a time. I'm going to go ahead and hit close here and go back up to the top. That's pretty much how you're going to work with your larger files. Let's go ahead now and talk about some of the options that you have when you're working with these larger files, like the freeze panes option, for example. If you wanted to have these headings stay at the top so that you could scroll anywhere you want down in this file and still see the headings, you could use freeze panes. I will see you over in section 3 shortly. We are still working in Module 4, and this is Section 3, and this section is called Freeze Panes. There is an option in Excel that will let you freeze columns or rows so that you can keep those on the screen and then scroll down or across wherever you'd like and still see the headings on the columns at the top, or if you have row headings on the left, you can see them that way too. Let me show you how the Freeze Panes option works in Excel. You'll notice in this exercise, if I scroll down, then what happens is I don't see my headings anymore. So if I asked you which column was the interest paid, you really wouldn't know unless you scroll back up and you could see. We have the ability to actually freeze rows 1 through 7 so they stay on the screen all the time, and then I can take rows 8 and down below and scroll up anywhere I need to be. Here's how the Freeze Panes option works. I'm going to click in A8. Now the reason I'm clicking here is because when you turn on the Freeze Panes option, it's going to freeze any rows that are above where you clicked, and since I want 1 through 7 to click, I'm going to click in 8. It's also going to freeze any columns to the left in case you were trying to scroll left or right. We don't need that in this particular case, so we'll just click in A8 and just freeze rows 1 through 7. All you have to do is go to the tab at the top that says View, and you'll see an option here that says Freeze Panes. Now when you click on it, you might get this drop-down list. All you want is the top option, because if you notice, this one is just freezing the top row, but we want rows 1 through 7, and this one is just freezing the first column. So if you just click here, it's rows above and columns to the left that freeze. Now you should see a little small faint line under row 7 right there. That tells you what's above it is frozen. Notice now I can scroll with my mouse anywhere I'd like, up or down, and rows 1 through 7 stay right there so I can see my headings. Isn't that cool? Now this line is not going to print, just so you'll know. If you want to take the Freeze Panes option off, you don't have to be clicked anywhere special. You just go back to Freeze Panes, and now it says Unfreeze Panes. Now let's try it where we freeze both up and down and left to right. Let's say I click in C8. That means it's going to freeze 1 through 7 and also A and B. Now let's go back up and turn on the Freeze Panes option again. I'm going to choose Freeze Panes, and now you'll see that same gray line under row 7 all the way across, but also you'll see it to the right of column B there. Notice I can go up and down so I know what my column headings are, but if I needed to go left to right, I could also go across and notice A and B stay. See that? So you can pretty much freeze this and see any two parts of the screen that you would like and then scroll wherever. That's a quick way to freeze panes. Let me go ahead and turn that off. We'll unfreeze these. And the next little option I want to talk to you about is called the split screen option. Let's go ahead and flip over to section 4 and I'll show you how the split screen option works. We've been working in Module 4 where we've been talking a lot about navigating through your different workbooks, and we've looked at a couple of options like the freeze panes we saw over in section 3. Let's go ahead and look now at the option called split screen. What split screen basically does is allows you to see something in one part of your file and then something in another part that you normally wouldn't be able to see without scrolling back and forth. Let me go ahead and show you how to use the split screen option. This example is a great exercise because let's say I want to do something like this. Row 9 happens to be the first month of my loan, and if you notice, this cell right here shows the interest I paid, which is $95. I'd like to see how much interest I paid the last month of the loan, so I'll just scroll down, and it's down in row 68 and it's $1.81. But now I can't see the first month of my loan. I've got to scroll back up to see that. Well, if I split the screen, it will allow me to see both at the same time. I'm going to start by clicking in cell A8 because I'm going to put the splitter right above row 8 here. All I have to do is go up here where it says split. Notice I'm still on the view tab. I'm going to click on split, and now you'll see your splitter. It looks like this gray line right here. Now notice that I can put my mouse on the splitter and move it up or down. That splitter can just be wherever you want it to be. But what I really want you to pay attention to is the fact that you now have two sets of scroll bars. I've got a scroll bar above my splitter, and I've got a scroll bar below the splitter. So I can really be in any two sections I'd like at the same time. I'm going to scroll down a little bit so I can see the last month of my loan, and voila, look, here's month 1 and here's month 60 in this particular case. If you want to turn the splitter off, you can do one of two things. You can either go up and hit split again, or you can drag the splitter to the top of the screen. That'll turn it off as well. Now let's say I started by clicking in C8. This is going to put the splitter above row 8, but also to the left of column C. Let me go back up and hit split again, and now you can see the splitter is up and down right here, and then across this way. So this means I can do something very similar. I can look at row 1, and scroll down on the second part and look at row 68 in this case, which is month 60. I can also go left to right. If there's some reason that I don't want to see maybe the first couple of columns there, I can scroll to the right like this and notice that column A and B stayed right where they were. So really you've got a lot of flexibility as far as looking at any two areas of the screen that you would like when you're working in Excel. All I have to do to turn these off is just go back and hit split up at the top, and we are good to go. Just make a note that if you save your file with the splitter on or with the freeze panes option on, it will stay that way so that when you open the file the next time, you're ready to go. That's really all I want to tell you about navigating through your workbooks. This is going to wrap up Module 4. Why don't we go ahead and go over to Module 5 where we're going to talk about a lot of the page setup and the print options. Now that you've gone through Module 4 and you learned how to navigate your workbooks, let's go ahead and just make sure you're okay with actually navigating through workbooks on your own. I want you to start off by opening a file called Loan Workbook. And once you get it open, I want you to just pay attention to the fact that you have two sheets at the bottom. You have a sheet called Terms of Loan and also one called the Detail Sheet for the 5-year loan. The sheet Terms of Loan is where you're going to be able to list your principal amount, your interest rate, and your term in months, and that will change the monthly payment if you change any of this. Over on the Detail Sheet for the 5-year loan, what we're looking at here is each month of the loan in a list broken out by beginning principal balance. You've got the interest paid, the principal paid, and the remaining principal amount. Once you've looked through this, I want you to take a few minutes and navigate. Navigate all the way to the bottom of this. The last column and last row that information is in F70, and then you can navigate back to the top. Just get really familiar with navigating, whether you use the scroll bar, whether you use your keyboard. It doesn't really matter as long as you know how to get around. Once you've done that, what we want to do is make this cell right here, which is C9, equal on the sheet Terms of Loan whatever's in D3. You're going to have to write a formula to do that. Remember that the formula starts on the detail sheet right here in C9 because that's where you want the answer to appear. You're going to write a formula that links C9 back to Terms of Loan D3. If you forget how to do that, go back and watch section 2 again. That's where we had written the formula to link these two sheets. Once you're finished with that, go back to the detail sheet for the 5-year loan. And I want you to freeze rows 1 through 7 at the top so that you can scroll down and see all the months of your loan without your headers disappearing. You can go ahead and take the freeze off once you've done that. Then I want you to go ahead and click in cell A8 and put your split option on. Remember, the split option is the one that will allow you to see two parts of your screen at once. I want you to be able to see the first month of your loan, which is row 9, and the last month of your loan at the same time on your screen. Once you've been able to do that, you can go ahead and take the split off, and then if you want to close the file, feel free to do so. That's going to wrap up Module 4, Navigating Workbooks. Once you're done, go ahead and move over to Module 5, and we're going to talk about the page setup and the print options in Excel.